Hello and welcome back to Property Developers Playbook. I'm Kieron Shepherd and we haven't got Jonathan here today. No, Jonathan's bailed on us to go and eat a lovely barbecue, or a braai as he says in South African. So yeah, we're missing him, but don't worry, I've got the show. I'm here to help. So yeah, welcome to the show. If you're new to the podcast, welcome. If you're joining us again, welcome back. This is the podcast where we talk all about property development, all the ups and downs, ins and outs. And if you've got any questions, drop us a line. But please follow, subscribe. So this week's episode is all about, well, it's not a great subject, but it's one we need to talk about, is the failings of property development. It's a fact of property development. Is something that we need to acknowledge and accept. And yeah, I'll share a couple of stories about my failings, our failings, and the sort of physical side of that, or the monetary side of that, and the emotional side of that, because that can be quite hard, and you sort of go through the emotions. So yeah, first things first is basically what you experience as a developer. So the process is, you will find the perfect bit of land and you will put an offer in, and the offer's accepted, and you start your legals. You might start planning. You'll go and talk to friends and family, and you're all excited by it, and you're like, yeah, this is brilliant. It's a perfect bit of land, perfect development. It's all stacking up. Everything's great. You might even start borrowing money for this development. You might start to, take on costs in terms of consultants, have agreements in place, solicitors' costs, all these different things that you're going to do to move this forward. Months will pass, you invest time. So you're physically, emotionally, monetarily invested in this next step. And for whatever reason, and there are a few reasons, the development doesn't come off. I'll tell you a little story in a minute, but basically when it doesn't come off, it hits hard. So you're left with some costs, time wasted. You feel like you're back to square one. For whatever reason, whatever the reasons might be, you might be angry. So the emotional side, you might be a bit drained because you've hyped yourself up to do this, and it might hit you quite hard. So yeah, there's lots of things, but one of the key things that I want you to take away from this episode and from the little stories I'm going to tell is to don't see this as a failure. There's a lot in there. Yes, a lot was taken from you: time, money, energy, and all the rest of it. But it's all learning. And I think if every development was successful, you'd be stretched way too thin, and you'd probably actually look at it and think we paid too much for it straight away. If every development went all the way to the end and you got it over the line, you would definitely be paying way too much. So ultimately, it'd be great if you can weed them out, and you do. It's a statistics and numbers game. Early doors, you might look at 100 sites, whittle them down to 10, and out of those 10, you might take up 2, and then 2 you'll take them forward to an offer accepted, and start raising money, and hopefully those 2 would see all the way through to at least planning to sell from planning, but you as an owner. But one of those 2 or both might. You might get gazumped, which we'll go into that in a minute, or it might not stack. Something might not happen. An investor might pull out. The bank might pull out. There are many, many reasons why a deal doesn't progress to actually you owning it and taking it forward. So I'm going to share one of our projects that recently we were very excited by. It was a deal that we'd stacked with the vendor, the landowner. We had basically come to an agreement that worked for them, worked for us, and unfortunately, part-way through, so it's been a 6-month process, and about 3 to 4 months in, after we'd spent money, borrowed money, spent money, invested our own money, put our own time in, our own energy. I think at one point, both me and John even thought about, owning these properties and living in them ourselves. Not that's where we ended up. But it was a lovely little site of a beautiful location, 5 really nice houses. And basically what had happened is we had been advised by a planning consultant that the red line drawing, within the red line drawing, we could actually slightly move the properties within that red line, and we could redesign these properties. Unfortunately, after spending the money again on architects' drawings and configuring them, and that got us really excited, because we were actually really happy with what we've designed, and that made us really want to push this forward and done even more for us. So we were so like, we're in, this is happening 100%, without a doubt, this is happening. And only to find out that we couldn't, we received the wrong advice from a planning consultant. We couldn't redesign the properties or move them where we wanted to. We had to stay with what the outline planning was. So we felt silly, we feel stupid for this, that we didn't do our own checks. But you rely on your team to do things. So again, we're trying to teach you guys on our failings and tell you about the mistakes. And a lot of people out there might go, that's what a stupid mistake. Yeah, and it is, but that's how we learn, and we'll definitely be checking that in the future. So basically what it did was it changed the whole thing. Now, we did actually try to carry on with the original planning. We even got it to take it into building regs, but the problem is we'd sort of fell out of love with it. We didn't really love the original layouts of the properties, and the biggest impact on these were they were 4-bedroom detached properties, and they were undersized, we felt, for the market. So we wanted to increase the area, the GIAs on these, to make them more family properties. And since we couldn't do that, our numbers now didn't stack, because pound per square foot, it didn't stack in our GDV. So we have to make the decision, reluctantly at the time, to pull out the deal. It just didn't stack. And so unfortunately, we had to walk away. And that is a hard pill to swallow. I try to claw it back, try to make it work, try and be a little bit adventurous, but with the ideas of how it works. But unfortunately, it just turned a little bit sour, and we ran out of time. So we had we'd negotiated a contract with the vendor to have an option that basically we negotiated to exchange, and we were looking to complete by a certain time frame. With all of this happening, and we tried to go back to the vendor and say, could we renegotiate because of all this stuff that's happened, and it's not our fault. Obviously, we are slightly to blame because we should have checked. But anyway, this had gone wrong. Could we get an extension of time? We managed to negotiate a small extension of time on the contract, but we ran out of time. So he was entitled to pull the contract, and that's it. We couldn't do anything. So once he decided to do that, he could have decided otherwise. But unfortunately, he was in his right to make that decision, and that meant the deal was off the table. So legally speaking, contractually, the deal's off the table. We can't do it. Now, I would still like to revisit it. I still think there are some things that could be done, but we're a partnership, me and John, and as a partnership, we decided let's just let it simmer, let what be, and we will just tend to our bruises and our egos, and we will try and move on. And we've got other deals, we've got other things we're looking at. So I think this is the key thing. You feel down, you feel like you have spent time, money, energy, and it's all sort of, it feels a little bit like the rug's been pulled from us, and we're not in control of that anymore. And it's a bit, it's emotionally, it's upsetting, but you've got to brush yourself off. You've got to brush yourself off, get back up, get back on the horse, and just go again. And it's particularly hard as well, I think, for people. Both me and John were quite lucky early on with our beginnings in property development, because we didn't get that far and then get gazumped or get something pulled from us. We were able to move through. But some of you out there, you're going to start, and this might happen on your first one, but what I want you to know is that's not a failure, and that does happen. And I think it would hurt more if it was your only project. We've got 2 or 3 others on the go, so at different stages. So we've got our energies to focus on those. But if you're left with nothing to do, or feel like, I'm back to square one, please don't feel like that. You've not gone backwards. You've actually gone forwards. You're going to learn loads from this. Share with us as well if you want to talk to someone, because again, we've got a partnership and we can talk to each other and tell each other how annoyed we are. Vent a little bit about it. And from the business side, work together to sort of fill the hole there, that pot that we have spent money on planning and proposals, consultant fees, drainage studies, and all different things. So yeah, I just want you to know, it isn't a reflection on your ability. Sometimes it just happens, and most of the time it is out of your control when this happens. So gazumping is one of these things where we use this as a term for where the vendor this isn't when you're in contract. When you're in a legal contract, it's completely different, but this is before legal contract where you gazump it, where you've almost, before that legal contract, you've agreed something, you've probably got a little less, definitely less invested at that point, because it's not legally binding, and the vendor will just pull it from you. That's gazumping. And it's not nice, and I think in Scotland it's actually illegal. Once there's a verbal agreement through the estate agents, that's it. You've agreed it. I don't know the ins and outs. I'm not a solicitor, but there is definitely rules in Scotland about that, and I think we should have those rules in this country. I think there probably will be under review shortly. But yeah, in this instance, we'd actually gone a bit further down the line, and we've had other cases where I don't think we've had it where we've gone that far into a deal and it's gone. But what we do have, we have lots of them where we will negotiate and we'll back and forth with the vendor or an agent or something, and we're trying to get the deal right, and our numbers work back, and they're obviously interested because of what we can do and what we're promising to deliver and the way we can work the deal. But maybe our numbers not strong enough. It usually comes down to the fact what we're offering isn't what they're asking. And what you've got to do is you've got to separate yourself from the deal and just put it out there and move on. And if they are interested, if the vendor or the agent is interested in that offer, it's always on the table and it's there. And what you just got to make them aware of. So we've got one on the table at the minute, and what we put an offer in, and it's about half of the asking price. But what we're saying to the agent is that's our offer now, but within 30 days to 3 months, 30 days, it's going to change. That offer will change because prices will change, circumstances will change, interest rates can change, anything can change. So it's good for 30 days. And then certainly within 3 months, it would completely change. The offer, we're not even really discussing the offer because our projections will change. But still, that's just to maybe put a little bit of heat under them, but at the same time, it's true. You can't fix the same deal in forever, and it's not a one-time only deal, but or offer, but that is the deal that's on the table from there. So you've got to make them aware of that. Again, going back to this one, so we're in negotiations. They want a little bit more. We're just seeing if there's more in it. So we've gone out to our contractors, our subcontractors, and obviously our contracting company to get some prices to work out if there is any more we can actually spend on buying the property by saving some of our costs. So if we can get some costs in now, get them fixed in, then we know what we can spend. So we'll try and do what we can, but I don't think we're going to get to where they want to be, and it might not go any further. But we've only spent time and energy. It's a great little development. It sees the returns. It's a nice location. It's easy actually for us to get to, and our construction company to get to. So cost savings there. It's a lovely little project. But if we don't get it, we're not going to be as upset because we're not as invested, monetarily invested or emotionally invested. It is just a development. So again, that's what I'd say to yourselves. Just try and not get too emotionally attached. That's a big key. Right, let's have a look, because John usually feeds me this information, and I have to do both now. So let's see what the next item is on here. We've done gazumped. We've done when the numbers change. That's what we were just talking about there. Okay, I guess earlier than that, we've got when the deals never reach that acceptance and they go quiet on you. That's really common. That happens. So that's when you're looking at 100 deals and you get that down to 50. I mean, you're going to put a lot of offers out there. You'll make an offer, someone else will win. Someone else will put a really good offer in, and you'll be looking at it going, have we missed something? How can they do that? But basically, that's just the case. That's just some people, are prepared to maybe make less, or their risk calculator isn't quite calibrated the same as yours is. So don't ever question yourself, or don't be led into that deal by thinking, an extra 10 there. It makes a massive difference. I know, You might be dealing with tens of hundreds of thousands at the front end and then millions at the back end, but it's really important that you stay disciplined and keep those figures conservative. Make sure you are sticking to your rules, and it's a numbers game. You have to be absolutely strict with that. Don't get carried away. So yeah, don't overpromise anything. Just make sure the numbers work and stick to your guns. It is business at the end of the day. So the biggest thing there, like I said, just don't offer too much. Just stick to your guns. The biggest lesson, try and it's hard if you've not got the experience, but I guess again, this is why a mentor is good. Somebody who can sort of maybe go along the journey with you, but just keep your eyes open to any warning signs, just anything that's not quite right, anything that just feels like it's not going to be smooth. Try and project that line of where you're going to go with the deal. More tricky if you're new to it, because you haven't got a lot of experience to be able to sort of reflect on and compare to. So one of the best things is to have really good systems. Again, this is something we teach, and we're very good at, having a really good systems and processes to make sure you're going through this. So it's not emotional, it's factual. Everything goes through on the correct steps, and you stick to that. You don't deviate. There's always external factors, good and bad, and you've got to look at all of those. And I call it's a system and process, but it's filters. Each one of these is a filter, and that filter is almost made up of a different type of aggregate, and your input is that aggregate. Your knowledge, your experience is how that filters it down. John's very good on the numbers side, so he's that numbers filter. I'm more the construction side, so I'll be that construction filter. Again, it has costs and timing issues and any of those things, and that becomes our risk calculator for how we take this forward. So just make sure you have a very good process, that you have those filters in place, and don't deviate. Stay on to that. There's lots of costs. So what we do is using our experience and our knowledge. There's things, hidden costs that you might not know about, and they might be £1,000 here, 500 there, little consultant costs. Try to make sure you include them. There's too many people just ignore it or don't know they have to include them. Go with a positive conservative figure, as in, if you think maybe it's 1,000, add 1,500, just to that, make sure you've got a bit of buffer in there. So many people will just bring those prices down and be, oh yeah, I'm a good buyer, I'll get those for cheaper with the consultants. That's the wrong way to look at it. If you think it's going to be a price, maybe add a half again or a third or something. Just give yourself some contingency in those prices. I think that's really important. Then once you work the deal back and it's really not stacking, or we've actually calculated deals before and it works out that the vendor owes us money for their land, which is ridiculous. But that means it just doesn't stack for us. Somebody else, they might find a way that deal stacks, and it might stack for them. But for us, it doesn't. And that's what's key. You've got to stick to what works for you. And that's what we can help with as well. We help our mentees and different people where we advise them how it works for them, because what works for us may not work for you. So we can help and advise on that. But principally, you need a process and system to go through. The other biggest thing is do not chase the deal. Once you've put it out there, do not chase. Don't get me wrong, touch points, regular calls, maybe every 30 days. Hiya, how you doing? Is there any interest in that? Do you want us to review it again? But if the finance doesn't work, if the numbers do not work, if the vendor will owe you money for the land and it's not stacking, get rid of it, throw it out. It doesn't work. Move on. Yeah, don't try to make the deal work. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. That's it. If it doesn't stack, it's not there. So the other thing which we've experienced is scarcity. That creates probably a more of a panic buy, and you sort of want to get going and you're not finding it. Me and John had a bit of I think we had nearly 18 months quiet spell, and we were looking at hundreds of potential deals, and nothing was coming. And it's frustrating, but you've got to stick to your process. You'll sell yourself short at the start and it will be much worse at the end. So you've got to stick to your guns don't try and make the deal work if it doesn't stack. It's as simple as that. And just say no. Say no to a bad deal. Just walk away. And you do. So on the other side, I've walked away from deals because I couldn't get the money. I couldn't raise the capital. My investors at the time that I was speaking to, that I was showing the deals, they were capping out at, say, $500,000. The land we wanted, that we were looking at, was $800,000. I showed the numbers. There was some good profits, good margins in there, but at the time, my investors just didn't have the appetite to go that extra further. You know, that little bit more. To me, I'm saying a little bit more. It's a lot more. £300,000. It was annoying. I got upset. I got emotional about it. I was frustrated because I put a lot of legwork in and I was trying to get that over the line. I knew it'd be very good for everyone, but I had to respect the fact I wasn't the money. They were the money. They were capped at 500. They wouldn't go to 800. That's fine. You know, I have to accept that and go and find the next one. So, you know, you do have other, you know, contributing factors that will change the deal or change the outcome, and you can't control them all. But what was important about that was, I was annoyed with the investor. Not, you know, I was annoyed with their decision, but that's their decision. And you know, some people might say, well, you know, how dare you sort of say you should, you know, I want that 800,000 or 500 instead of 500. Well, the fact is, we discussed that was a potential, so it was on the table. But they decided it wasn't, and I had to accept that and move on. So that's what we did. We accepted it, moved on, and then I watched another developer build some beautiful homes, sold them for actually more than my GDV, and make even better money. So that was a hard pill to swallow, to watch something be developed out, built out, and sold for more than what I was thinking it was going to be. And obviously they make very good profit, good returns, and it was the one that got away. You know, we've all got at least one, and that was one. And luckily I don't sort of see it or pass it or anything like that, but I'm aware of it. And it was it's hard to sort of go, what if? But you've got to move on. There'll be others. There's always others. You keep just looking at the deals, keep doing, you know, working through the process, and that's all you can do. That is all you can do. So final thoughts on all this. Well, every developer remembers the deals that got away, but learn from that. You know, they are mistakes that you can learn from. It's not failing. It's, you know, I'm sure John would come up with a good little quote on that. He's good at that side. Oh, there is a little one here that he's putting here. Look, the deal you lose makes room for the one you were actually supposed to do. Hey, that's something John would say, that is. I don't think he wrote it, but yeah. So keep analysing, keep learning, and keep making offers. It's as simple as that. You just keep going. That's all you can do. Just keep going. Property development isn't about winning every deal. It's about surviving long enough to win the right ones. That's, again, something else John would write. So yeah, perfect. I think he did write this. But so thank you, John. That's it, really. Thank you for listening. I've been Kieron Shepherd. This is Property Developers Playbook, the podcast where we discuss everything property development. If you're not already, please follow, like, subscribe. And if you're interested in this episode or any of the other episodes, please get in touch. Share your experiences. Got any questions? Please, fire them in. Let's see if we can answer some of these questions. And I got a question the other day. I talked to John about this, and he wants to save this for another podcast that's not about this because it's relevant to that. So I don't have any questions about this. So if anybody's got any questions about, being gazumped, or what do you do in a certain scenario where you feel that maybe it's not going quite right, or maybe you want to pull out the deal. That's another thing. We didn't quite touch on that. Maybe the deal isn't stacking and you've got to pull out. My simple answer to that is pull out the deal, walk away. It's not working and you'll feel it. You feel it that it's not working, just pull out. So that's it. I was mumbling on again. I've been Kieron Shepherd. This is Property Developers Playbook. Catch you again.